guys, so we are back. Last week I was a little sick, but now we're back at it, and we are with our 4th episode of Q&A from Instagram. Again, all I'm doing is giving tips and just kind of blanket statements to kind of help people out with just the little stuff. As always, find a trainer in your area if you can't train with us. So the first question I have here is, what's the easiest way to put eye drops in a puppy's eye? Well, I mean, you can kind of go through the marker system where you show them the little thing, click, they smell it, click, and then drop near their eye, click, and show them that it's positive. It's probably not going to work realistically depending on your dog. So I would suggest using 2 people, one to kind of comfort the dog, the other person to administer the eye drops. Always keep it positive and start them young too. Start working through that program that way. They get used to it, type of a thing. When my dog sees dogs he hasn't seen before, he loses interest in me. How do I fix this? So this is I guess a general engagement question, and also a social etiquette question for us. So why does your dog seek value in other dogs? Is it because we've done puppy play dates? Is it because we do dog parks? Why is your dog listening to you? Have we not drilled engagement? Have we not drilled our obedience enough? Have we not made ourselves something of value to our dog to where they want to play with us, and we're not just some authoritative figure that they can blow off every once in a while? So go back to the basics. Start working your engagement. Start working your obedience. Do it in a balanced manner. Start, I guess, bringing your dog out and about and training the same way too. So no matter where you are, no matter what's going on with your dog, they'll always engage with you, and everybody else and anything else is just furniture to them. How to nicely explain to your neighbor their labs are in need of training. And then there's like a little angry face emoji thing. So the only way you can do it in the most direct way, and probably the best way possible, is to come at them in an honest way. Hey, your dogs are kind of being a little bit out of hand. Might seek some training. If they don't take it, just give them some cards. Or you can just kind of drop off some flyers for them, and that way they can kind of figure out themselves. Chances are, unless they're complete idiots, they know their dogs are, pretty bad. Heard anything good about Malinois from the Philippines? And then they put, I am skeptical. I am skeptical as well. I have not heard anything, nor do I have any interest in that. So be careful. How do you clean and store your bite suit? So I don't clean them too often. Usually it's like once a month. We'll take them to the big laundromat, wash them on cold, and then I have a little hanger system that dries them from the inside when I hang them up. So that's how I use them. And they're stored on that hanger, or when they're fully dry, I have them folded up. How to train a dog to find a corpse or search a human. So I don't really have too much experience in that type of work, but what I would suggest looking up is Cameron Ford's school. I forgot the name of it. Eric Van Ness from Van Ness Canine. I hear they do some pretty good odor work too, so they would probably know. And then another gentleman by the name of Howard Young, I saw they do some cadaver work, so I'll look into those names. GSD tries to chase cats when walking on leash. Correction or redirect to something positive? Yes, correct the dog. Redirecting, chances are you're probably not going to do the timing, and you're probably going to reward them for going after that cat, or just basically try to throw treats at them, and you're still ineffective at the time. So you got to figure out what type of correction that you can use to correct the dog from going after the cat in a way that's not going to create insecurity with them. So find a trainer again and work that out. So another good question. How old should my dog be before I start introducing a prong collar or an e-collar on him? For me, I like to get my dogs at least above like 7-8 months before I start using any type of corrective training on them, just because it gives me enough time to really build positive behaviors and make me more entertaining with them. And that way I don't have to rely so much on compulsion and correcting the behaviors when they're not really even shaped yet. So the real question is, does your dog know the behaviors that you want to correct? If that's a no or a maybe, then that means you probably should start at square one and focus more on the positive side. Another good question is clicker, e-collar, or prong collar for obedience training. Going back to the questions before, I use all of them. You guys have probably seen it in some of my stories and some of the videos we post. I like them because it's a really clear form of communicating. The click is consistent. I'm very monotone, so I can be verbally consistent with my rewards. So happy, sad, mad pretty much always sound the same, just like the clicker. Click is a click, or a double click's a double click. The prong collar and e-collar, based on the dog and what stage they are in learning, it gives them that accountability factor. So I use them all. So a good question here is, how do you use a prong collar for a gas pedal or motivation. I don't personally do it. I know a lot of people who do use that style of training where they issue the command if the dog understands it, and then every delay is a tap 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 from the prong or knee collar. And the common word is we're stimming them into the behavior or the position. Realistically, it's just a renamed version of force training from back in the day where they weren't doing the command. It was seats, or crank, 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 plots, plots, plots. It's the same thing in my opinion, and you're just kind of correcting the dog into it. Because of the vast difference in type of dogs that I work with, from sport to pet training, which is the majority of our work, and just kind of the reactivity issues. A lot of the times what you can do to dog by using a gas pedal or using a prong collar as motivation is you can cause some issues with the handler. You can also start creating some redirection as well, because chances are the people who are teaching you might know how to do it, but chances are you won't be able to do it the right way, and you could hurt your dog, hurt your dog's relationship, or it can eventually hurt you, and I've seen it before. How do you get a dog from walking in circles as he poops and stepping in it, and then he put his ode and not Sally? The way that I would do it is take your dog on a leash out to the space you want him to go to the restroom at, hold them there until they go to the restroom. If they start moving, just keep them in that same space so you can help them with the leash. So I got a lot of questions that I want to kind of brush this on. Is everyone wants to know what age to start on a prong. Chances are, if people are asking this, then they're kind of young. The dog's kind of young, and they're getting into that age where they're starting to test more, be a little, rambunctious is the word. And realistically, what you can do, and I've gone through this with the many puppies that we've trained over the years, is I'll go back to more of the clicker training and start working on the behaviors, building my engagement with them, especially if they're below 6 months or even younger. And then I start seeing, do they really know these things? Are they understanding what's happening? Are they mentally mature enough to process what a correction is? Is this dog ready for that? And then I go from there. But I always kind of backstep again, making sure that we've done all the proper steps on creating the behaviors. And then, then I start looking at, okay, maybe it's time to add a prong. So instead of asking about what age or when do you do it, start thinking, okay, does my dog know the behaviors that I'm trying to correct? If your dog knows those behaviors and you're 100% sure of it, then it's time to maybe start adding a prong collar. But that's it for this week's session, guys. Thanks again for all the questions. And again, find a trainer. Don't YouTube train your dog or Google train your dog. Deal with a professional.